Have you ever had one of those nights where you go to bed but wake up after a few hours and can't get back to sleep? While it might not seem like it today, that was actually the normal sleeping pattern in the medieval period and before. Instead of sleeping through the night like we do now, people in the medieval era and other pre-industrial societies slept in two phases, also called biphasic or segmented sleep. People would go to bed really early because nighttime was generally unsafe, so they'd sleep for a few hours, then wake up, usually between 11 p.m. to 1 or 2 a.m. for what they called watch or vigil. They'd use the time for activities like reading, praying, or even socializing, and then go back to bed for what was called second sleep. So what changed? Well, the Industrial Revolution shifted daily schedules. For example, you'd have factory workers who worked all night. Also, artificial lighting transformed our relationship with the night, giving us more time for activities after nightfall.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you for joining me here for Think About It Thursday. And we got Lena back. Woo! So, just to let you all know, today we're going to be discussing being marginalized women and navigating social media today, which I felt was appropriate after the clusterfuck that was Tuesday. And some people getting the wrong impression. I'm not mean. I don't bite all the time. Just a little bit. But you want to introduce yourself to the people and let them know a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Lena. I have TikTok accounts, obviously. Well, I have social media in general, but I spend a lot of time outside of social media also for activism purposes because I march with the LGBTQIA community out here. I work with the trans community out here. I'm for Asian rights, also Indigenous rights. I'm really a big proponent on land back. So there's a lot of things that I do outside of social media, even though it seems like I'm on social media a whole lot. But I also end up getting my accounts taken all the time by TikTok. So
TikTok doesn't like us very much.
no, TikTok hates me.
And let's start there because it seems like navigating newer social media platforms, and I consider TikTok to be newer as compared to some of the other ones. The community guidelines can be a little tricky to navigate. Do you agree?
You would think that they're pretty straightforward. I had put up a post, it was almost a 10-minute post of all the community guidelines that TikTok has. It covers the same thing that most social media platforms cover. You're not supposed to have hate speech, you're not supposed to attack marginalized communities, you're not supposed to go ahead and bully and harass people. It also has caveats that it's supposed to protect marginalized communities. It just doesn't really do as good of a job as the community standards say that it's going to do because in the time that I've been on TikTok, the 2 years that I've been on TikTok, I've lost three of my accounts with just the Lena Yee name on it, plus countless others. And then I've watched personally several hundred creators just get deplatformed entirely and have to make new account after new account. And most of them happen to be from marginalized communities.
And that's the part that sucks. It's now we know Twitter, because of Elon Musk, is always going to protect the problematic. But you would think, especially after the congressional hearings and the CEO of, TikTok making all these promises, that things would get better. Now, I've experienced, hold on, what is that guy's name? Okay, there is a registered pedophile on the app right now that we are all aware of, I believe. I cannot think of his name right now. Please excuse me. But I know
Kemper is his last name.
Yeah, that have reported him, and they're like, "Oh, his content's fine. His page is fine."
His two accounts were deplatformed tonight, so.
Yeah, I saw the first one go down. I didn't get a chance to see if the second one went down.
Yep, the second one went down tonight, and phone calls were made to his local law enforcement also to inform them of the activities that he's taking place in because it was found out that he's also running a Discord that he had advertised as an open Discord on his Facebook pages. So there's groups of people going after his Facebook pages to deplatform him from there, and also Discord.
Yeah. Also, I know that Jolly Green Ginger posted a video, well, a screenshot of this man. And unfortunately, there was a woman who looked like she was falling trapped to and was like, I have new besties. And because she had the camera tilted up, y'all, please stop messaging me. I am not that woman. Yes, when I do TikTok videos, there are pictures behind me on the wall, and that woman's setup is similar to mine. It ain't me. It
So
ain't me.
just to clear up for anybody that might be in the comments right now hearing about this, the woman that's actually being spoken of is actually on the side of stopping him. She has a group of people also that are targeting him to try and take down his accounts. She had to word it that way because, again, she's also been deplatformed by TikTok because, well, TikTok, for some reason, they don't like women that have voices and they don't like the tones of our voices. And I've noticed that doesn't matter really what community you're from, whether it be, the BIPOC community, the POC community, the indigenous community, or even the white community. Women that have too harsh of voices are constantly tone policed.
Yeah, unless you're out there supporting problematic behavior, they don't want to hear from us. They don't want to hear from us at all. Um Another question. I know that it is rampant, especially on TikTok, the mansplaining. How do you go about dealing with the mansplaining?
For the most part, when I run across men that try and mansplain to me, they have started saying that I woman splain because I will pull up cited sources and I will post cited sources, I will link everything, and I will continue to respond to them by video over and over and over again to the point that it junks up my feed just to get them to shut up.
Huh? Because they don't, to any men watching, no disrespect.
Oh
But
yeah, I
some
love you guys.
y'all ain't the brightest all the time. Like, you really make us wonder how you survive from day to day. Also, because I know that you do a lot of work offline with marginalized communities. Do you mind telling people how you became involved in those things?
Well, so I was born and raised United Methodist. And I have my degree in theology. I also have a degree in psychology. But what happened was while I was growing up and I was watching how the Christian church operates, how a lot of it seems to have negative rhetoric against marginalized communities, to the point that I didn't know a lot of my own family history because it wasn't okay to talk about on my dad's side. I started realizing that there was something really wrong with how things were going. So I started looking more into other religions, outside sources, digging more into the science of everything and realizing that there are entire swaths of people within the United States that are considered marginalized communities, even though together we do make up a large portion of the United States. But the laws that have existed since the founding of this nation, I've discovered, have always negatively impacted one marginalized community or another. For instance, during pre colonization, with the impact to the indigenous community, and then through slavery, the impact to the Black community, and how continuing from slavery on, the Black community has continued to deal with issues with getting recognized as equals because it is a system that is really written to benefit cisgender, heterosexual white males. It's not really designed to benefit anyone. So I know that a lot of white women feel like they have a place of privilege. And while they have a place of privilege higher than everybody else on that ladder of oppression, they need to remember that their place of privilege is still on that rung and that ladder of oppression. And so I made it my goal to try and educate people on the different levels when it came to that. And that's how I started. And then as my kids were growing up, I didn't really talk about things like gender identity and stuff like that so much, even being bisexual. I didn't talk about sexuality because I was very just closed off because the way I was raised. And I was taught that to hate myself really for feeling the way that I feel. And so it took a lot for me to grapple with that. But as my kids got older and they came into their identities and their sexualities, and they started introducing me to their friends that were getting treated poorly by their family, that's when I decided that LGBTQIA rights and trans rights is where I wanted to focus.
Hmm. See? There's always more to it. I keep telling you guys that. And how do you translate that into your online presence?
Well, most of the topics that I cover have to do with because I get sent videos where people are targeting members of the LGBTQIA community, or I'll get sent comments where, people are bullying the trans community. And everyone knows on TikTok that I have a bit of a temper and I have to moderate myself a whole lot. But so they send me these. And so what I do is I address those and I'll bring up the actual cited sources, the facts when it comes to the biology, the psychology, the sociology, the anthropology, on basically all the scientific facts on why LGBTQIA communities are okay, why trans existence should be accepted, and I also make sure to amplify their voices. So if they post something, they know that they can tag me in anything. I will share their message. I will repost their message. And this doesn't just go for the LGBTQIA community or even the trans community. Any of my friends on TikTok know that if they are from a marginalized community, I will amplify their voice.
Most definitely, most definitely. Real quick, I'm gonna pull us from the feed real quick. And Lena did update everyone on this gentleman's account being taken down. But as we were talking about it, somebody did send me a quick video just so that everybody's on the same page. So if you do see his face, his name anywhere else, to notify the authorities. And I'm going to do 2 videos back to back because right after that, Lena has a great video explaining how to report an account on TikTok. So we'll see you back in 2 and 2, and we'll be back to finish this conversation.
You reveal your ignorance and your stupidity when you say that I'm level 3. I'm level 2.
Level 3. What is level 2? What is he talking about there? Maybe this will clarify for you. In that video is Terry Kemper. You can see him here back when he had like a pen pal dating profile, back when he was in prison. And why was he there? He was there for assaulting a 3-year-old child. And then later he was fighting because the prison wanted to review any materials that came into him to make sure they didn't feature stuff that would be utilized by someone who has his particular sickness. And he thought that wasn't fair, that it be reviewed. And now he's on TikTok. And what does he think about the fact that people don't want him on here? Well, just a few hours ago, he posted about how he won't accept anyone's bullying behavior anymore and that he's not going anywhere. And here's the thing. He's made his whole persona about like being anti-bullying and standing up for everyone, including the young. Oh, and did I mention he's a Trump supporter? And before some of you get upset and think I'm saying Trump supporters are like him, what I'm saying is he likes to hide in plain sight by saying things you want to hear. He talks about being against bullying. He talks about protecting kids. He talks about liking Donald Trump. And it works. I'm going to cover her name because I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. She has no idea who she aligned herself with. But just a few hours ago, there was a user on TikTok who duetted him and called him new best friends because he was talking about fake pedo hunters. He then left a comment about how he'd always stand up for her, and she made a video thanking him. Meanwhile, on her profile, online predator hunter, Trump supporter. She's calling him new best friend. The same guy who leaves comments like this. This guy had made a video about how there's no place for people who harm children. Someone else said everyone deserves a second chance. He was like, no. And then Terry commented that. How addicts are worse than child predators and more likely to relapse. And he does all this while saying there's no law that says people like him have to stay off social media. Doesn't matter if there's a law. Myself and every other decent human being says you don't need to be here. So there he is. Do with that what you will.
So a lot of you don't know how to report somebody who has an account on here that's not supposed to be on here. For instance, Terry Kemper. So I'm going to include the website that you can go to, but you put your contact information, obviously, your email address. You can choose to put your username. You don't have to, that's not required. But you go down, and when you click on topics, you'll see that there are several topics here. What I do when I report them is I go to report inappropriate content. Even though it's not inappropriate content, I report a user, the reason for reporting others. I give a link directly to their profile, and it can be copied from the top of their page at the arrow. It's like copy link, and you just paste that in there, and then you tell them exactly what the problem is. So again, TikTok community guidelines state that registered, sex offenders cannot be on this app. So of course I filled out all that information, and once I get that all in there, I go ahead and go down and I will select an attachment to put into there. That way people know exactly what it is that I'm putting. So photo library, scroll down to what I'm looking for. There's his sex offender registry information, place it, and then click on both of those, hit submit.
So there we go. Everyone knows who he is and how to report should you see him pop up anywhere else. And also, one other snippet, do keep in mind, you can contact your local FBI offices. One, if you are continuously harassed online for your gender, your race, whatever, your religion, and with someone like that, also submit to your local FBI office. You can just click in FBI in your county or your city. Where I live, the FBI offices are broken up by county. Where my dad lives, it's broken up just by the city. So make sure you know that information as well. Hold on. Trying to go through some of these comments. All right. Trying to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Okay. Now, also, while doing the good work on TikTok, how do you go about balancing multiple social media accounts?
So I am terrible at balance when it comes to multiple social media accounts. The only thing that I use Facebook for specifically is to keep in touch with what family I will talk to, which happens to be my mother and my older sister and my older brother. There are friends on my Facebook account, don't get me wrong, but these are people that have known me for most of my life. So I don't really see like friend requests there because I don't really post that you should be on my personal Facebook page where I've got pictures of my children, from growing on up. And so that's an online safety thing for me. I like to keep a lot of that private, which is why posts that have my children in it will be friends only also when it comes to TikTok. Twitter, I mostly just repost things from other people because I feel that other people's voices definitely are much more intelligent than mine on a lot of aspects. I definitely do not know everything. I never claim to know everything. I do the research the best that I can, but there will always be someone out there that is more educated than I am and more intelligent than I am and better spoken than I am that should be amplified. I repost videos all day on TikTok while I'm running around taking care of my errands, working, all of it. That's why I have so many blacked out videos, or had so many blacked out videos when I had my original accounts. Because most of those blacked out videos have to do with me being out and about in real life, taking care of things outside. And I don't let everybody have an insight all the time into what my regular life is, because again, that's not what I'm on social media for. You do know that I'm on Threads. I will take your posts and I repost your posts. There are a few others that I repost on there. Occasionally, if I feel I said something particularly smart, I will post my own on there. But it takes a lot for me to feel that I said something particularly smart, just so you guys know. There is not much of my content there on Threads. You guys get the best and worst of me on TikTok. Absolutely.
Have you know what's the biggest difference you've noticed in the treatment of marginalized people across those different social media platforms?
You know, I wish I could say that there is a difference when it came to how people treated each other, but that's not always the case. So, for instance, when I used to run one of the largest meme stashes on Facebook, I was one of several admins that were leftists on it, but it was called, President Trump's Dank Meme Stash, or Donald Trump's Dank Meme Stash, before he became president. Um, so it was filled with right-wing, alt-right people. I can't say honestly in the entire time that I've ran, Facebook groups and stuff, that I've ever been treated fairly or kindly, especially not by cisgendered white men. I mean, that's the reality of the situation of it. Like I love guys, don't get me wrong, but at the same point in time, like I don't know how many times I heard leading up to the election and even after the election, because somebody did not like what I said or the cited sources that I used, because I always try to provide cited sources, that I should go back over the wall because of what, my actual name is. And I don't know how many times I've tried to explain to somebody that a name is not a national origin identifier, and that assuming that someone is from somewhere is racist. And I've been called all types of really, really interesting names, because sometimes these people can get really creative with their insults. They really do. Of course, I'm just as creative with the insults back, but at the same point in time, my favorite thing to call them is Princess Sparkle Fart, period. It always makes everybody giggle when I say Princess Sparkle Fart. I don't know why, but that seems to be your guys' favorite word that I use. And I can say that there are good people out there. Don't get me wrong. There are definitely a lot of good people. There are people that are willing to listen, but there's also a lot of problematic people that consider themselves allies. And that is the reality of the situation. And when I say problematic, I mean speaking over the voices of marginalized communities, because as an ally, you don't know somebody's lived experience. You can only see from the outside. So when you speak over their lived experience, it becomes really problematic because you're amplifying your own voice instead of amplifying their voice. As far as community guidelines go between the different apps, I can say that I have gotten in less trouble on Twitter than I have on any other social media app. And that was even when I was putting my own words on Twitter. And the reason why is because the community guidelines are not as strictly enforced there as anywhere else.
Right.
Facebook, Facebook, I have gotten hit with the most silly things, calling somebody a spring chicken. You're a spring chicken. Apparently that was bullying and hate speech. Talking about women's menses issues. That was also hate speech. But when it comes to TikTok, the community guidelines, while it seems like it's strict, at the same point in time, it's completely arbitrary. The enforcement of it is completely asinine. It's arbitrary. You've got entire marginalized communities out there that fall under the educating or, even just BIPOC communities talking about BIPOC issues, transgender people talking about transgender issues, trans joy posts just getting flagged left and right because conservatives are complete melts. They are. And the way TikTok enforces its guidelines is if somebody reports something and it's flagged once and they appeal it and it gets put back, if someone reports it again, that counts as a strike against them and that video is permanently removed, even though it was already appealed and
Mhm.
allowed. And so people weaponize that mass report button all the time. And I know for a fact that these groups are on Discord. They band together. They are on Discord. They do discuss what they're going to target. They do discuss, who they're going to target. And they go after specific creators. So take your account for instance. You speak about a lot of anti-racist issues. You're leading people on an anti-racism journey. You're
Mhm.
explaining the impacts of racism against the Black community, in the United States, and you bring up historical references. Absolutely, your platform would be an educational platform, an educational page when it comes to the Black experience and Black history because you always provide your sources. And then for your account to be completely deplatformed because of mass reporters just tells me that you are specifically targeted. Black Prince, he was specifically targeted.
Yeah.
Uh, Just Tom, specifically targeted. When you speak out, people don't like it because the masses that benefit from privilege really. The masses that benefit from privilege do not like to hear the truth about themselves. And you always know when that truth is about them because they will comment when they should have just scrolled on.
Yeah. And I don't want to say that's frustrating. It's now entertaining to me because I'm one of the few people I don't hashtag at all. I do not hashtag at all. So when someone who's extremely contrary to what I put out finds me and wants to comment, I know that it's been sent to them. I know that they've sought it out. And when they take the time as if they're going to change my mind, it's 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 quite entertaining. Um Now I know the landscape of social media has changed. Like when we first had like AOL Messenger and then MySpace, it seemed like to be a real sense of community. So now I'm glad we've gotten away from what I call the beefing culture, where it seemed like every other day a creator was trying to make it big by having a online fight with someone else. But have things changed for you since COVID on social media?
I would say that I'm posting more after the pandemic started, and then I didn't slow down even after it started easing up a bit. I had a lot more time on my hands when COVID hit. And so I spent a lot of that time going ahead and putting out information out there and getting into fights with people and getting in trouble. But but I think the way that social media changed the pandemic experience is that a lot of people ran to social media so they could get that sense of community, so they could find their people. And TikTok is a wonderful platform for that. Even as problematic as it is and the problems that it has, people that want to connect with each other and get the support that they need are able to do so on TikTok with a few clicks of the button. You follow your favorite creators, and your For You page is changed. And it's really good that way because, for instance, you have an entire group of ex-felons that are trying to get ahead in life, trying to be better people, educating others about, the prison experience, what they learned from it, where they're moving forward. And people like that need community, just like trans people need community. And especially, BIPOC people need community because we as humans thrive on interaction. We can't just not interact. It's just not in our nature to do so. We socialize and we thrive on socialization. Some of us thrive on, being controversial with each other, but we thrive on socialization still at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it's about building a community experience, reaching the people that you want to reach. Are you addressing the people that cause these problems? Absolutely. But while addressing these people that are causing these problems, you are drawing a community to you that needs you and you need them. So I love TikTok for that. The social media aspect definitely changed for me once I joined TikTok because of the pandemic. Um, I've I've met some wonderful people, I learn a whole lot. And I'm going to be honest, there are things that I didn't know about that I've learned. There are things that you've taught me, especially when it comes to the medical research that was done on Black women especially. And it's absolutely heartbreaking to hear, but growing up where you were Christian conservative and all of that was blocked out from you, these are important things to learn. These are important things to hear because I can say that I'm not racist because I come from a marginalized community. But at the end of the day, have I addressed my own internalized racism? And have I addressed the stereotypes that I put on other people? And I think that I'm still working towards that goal. And so I need content creators like you to teach me. And you are my community. And the people that are following me consistently, these are my community that I learn from. So it can be a good thing. Time consuming, but good.
Always, always, always. Um, as our political landscape changes, where before we just had politicians, and regardless on what side of the aisle you sat on, or if you sat in the middle of the aisle, for a long time, people just complained about politicians and just complained about the government. Has anything changed for you on social media now that we have the DeSantis cult and the Trump cult and things like that?
Oh God. So I started voting in 1998. And I started out as Republican, and then over time I moved to the American Constitution Party before I realized that was a huge mistake and started stepping left fast. Then I was a Bernie delegate during Trump's initial campaign. And I watched the fanaticism and it's really idol worship of these politicians that aren't really politicians. They're just really terrible people when you get right down to it. And it reminds me a lot of other things that happened historically. Um, I love history. So for instance, Trump, the reason why he ended up with the cult following that he did is because he played into the fears of the average working man. And the fears of losing your job, of losing your homes, the economy is terrible, gas prices are terrible, the Democrats are doing this, blah, 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 and then he started calling out Republicans that didn't agree with him and calling them rhinos. And it became very cult like, frenzied mentality from people that follow Trump to where they're like, oh, the only savior is Trump. Trump is Jesus, basically, in their mind. And it's because people are fearful. They are fearful creatures and they are afraid of change. And so that's where the whole idea of falling back on traditionalism comes from. But anybody that's done any bit of historical studies whatsoever realizes that these tropes that he was pushing, the anti-immigration policies, talking about building the wall 10 feet taller, saying the Democrats were coming for your guns, all of this stuff that he was pushing was to drive fear into people so that he could have a base. And this is no different than the same propaganda that was pushed between the 1930s to mid 1940s Germany, the anti-immigrant, fears. Uh, Only the true German people should be armed. We have to stop, the radicalization of these different religions that are coming into our nation. One people, traditionalism, blood and all of that. This is all the same stuff. And it includes persecuting the disabled community. It includes persecuting the LGBTQIA community. Because the biggest thing that people forget about the Holocaust really is that it was not just the Jewish community that was impacted. Yes, they were impacted heavily, but it was still other immigrants, such as the Polish people, the Slavs. It was also disabled people. It was trans people, the anti-LGBTQIA legislation. You had people turning in their own families to coddle favor with a propagandist. And that is exactly what Donald Trump is. Donald Trump is a propagandist. He is not a good leader. Ron DeSantis, he is a propagandist with too much power right now. He is persecuting literally his entire state. His anti-trans legislation, the way that he treats immigrants, he is punishing his entire state. And until conservatives wake up and realize that these policies are negatively going to impact them also, then there's not really much that can be done. And they're just being complacent to intolerance. Because for me to say that all conservatives are bad people would be painting them with a really broad stroked brush. I think that conservatives and some allies, a lot of allies, are complacent. And they are willing to tolerate intolerable acts because it doesn't affect them yet. And people need to realize that when it affects the smallest of us, the most oppressed of us, it will affect us also.
And it's very sad because I like I said, I will constantly remind people of this. DeSantis is a former history teacher. Now we know Trump is dumber than a box of rocks. But they're taking the same approach as McCarthy. And I'm not talking about the current McCarthy. I'm talking about the McCarthy of McCarthyism. He was in Congress when he was 100 years old.
Oof.
And they finally threw a party for him. So many of his constituents said that he never belonged in office. They hated him then, they hate him now. And I know that many of you have heard me say this before. A lot of people throughout history and now look at their potential legacy in the history books. That legacy is going to be crap. Because I can't even imagine 50 years from now being a student sitting in class, having to learn just about the past few years and thinking that this is something that was written and put on Netflix. And yet here we are living it. Now, you guys, before we go any further, those of you all that watch on a nightly basis, I do have an update on our favorite telenovela. Now, Lena, it's not really a telenovela. It is a case that we have been following that just gets more and more extreme as we go on. Let me get you up to speed. There was a man here in the United States. He sexually assaulted a woman in Oklahoma. He was brought up on charges. He's supposed to go to prison. He fakes his own death and goes to Scotland and then ends up in UK and then somehow back in Scotland. Now, while there, he pretends to be wheelchair ridden and must wear an oxygen mask, but the oxygen mask is always changing and sometimes is a nebulizer mask. He claims that he converted to Judaism while in prison in less than 3 days. He says that there's a big conspiracy theory and that he is not the person from the United States, that his name is Arthur Knight. Yes, Arthur Knight. Worst fake name you could ever get. And he claims that while he was passed out in the hospital from COVID, they put tattoos on his arm and changed his fingerprints. Now, he's been going through an extradition trial and we've been watching it because he's been coming to court dressed in judges' robes, which we learned yesterday that in Scotland, the judges are called sheriffs. Why? We don't know, okay? We didn't look that deep into it. But he claims that he can't move his legs, but while in prison, he gets up and kicks the guards and fights with them. He has a new bestie that's a pedophile that pushes him around for 2.5 pounds a week, who also went into court to testify for him. So we have an update. We're going to play the update. If y'all need to go grab some snacks real quick, we're going to play it because we got to bring Lena in on the telenovela. So see you in 2 and 2.
Nicholas Rossi, aka Arthur Knight, is back in court. Yes, court has reconvened for the extradition hearing to determine if he will get sent back to the United States to stand trial for his crimes. Also, he's got a new hat! I just love how he's slowly transforming into the Penguin from Batman. Court-appointed defense attorney Mungo Bovey leaving it all on the field today, trying every last trick he knows to keep his client from being extradited. Bovey argued that even though the court has established that Nicholas Rossi and Arthur Knight are the same person, it has not been established that Nicholas Rossi is a U.S. citizen, so it would be unfair to send him back to a country that is not his own. Arthur Knight fumed at the allegation that he was Nicholas Rossi and demanded that Mungo Bovey be fired. "Counsel is dismissed! Counsel is dismissed!" he argued repeatedly. Now you might think this is crazy, and it is, but it is also an effective stalling tactic. Part of the reason why this thing has dragged out as long as it has is because Arthur Knight has kept firing his court-appointed defense attorneys. I believe Mungo Bovey is his 9th defense attorney so far, and each time he lets one go, it causes the whole process to get backed up. The judge was not having any of Arthur's antics today, though, and demanded that if Arthur could not keep his mouth shut, he would be removed from court and the hearing would continue without him. Also, I found out they're not called judges in Scotland, they're called sheriffs. This is the sheriff presiding over the hearing, Sheriff Norman McFadden. This is his nice face, and this is his not nice face, which I presume he has been wearing the entire time Arthur has been in his court. Also, I love the Whigs' UK court system. Mwah. But that wasn't Bovey's only play. He said that it would violate Arthur's human rights to be extradited. For one, it would make it very difficult for Arthur to coordinate with his attorneys back in the UK, which is true. He also argued that the conditions of the Utah prisons where Arthur would be held while on trial in the United States were completely unacceptable. He argued that the Utah prisons were short-staffed, offered poor medical care for Arthur's many personality traits, and had twice the average rate of death by suicide. He also argued that if Arthur were convicted of rape in Utah, that his sentencing would be determined by an executive board and not a judicial one, something that he felt would be a violation of Arthur's human rights and unacceptable to their UK standards of justice. Finally, Bovey argued that Arthur's propensity to create conflict in the prison system, all the nuttiness and antics and lies that he's done so far, which Bovey attributes to personality disorders on Arthur's part, would make life very, very difficult for him in U.S. prisons. The conflict this man displays will endanger him, Bovey said. And I gotta tell you, if there is a compelling argument as to why the UK won't extradite this guy back to the States, it is that one. I think we all know they're gonna go hard on him if this guy lands in a U.S. prison. Neither the guards nor the other inmates are gonna take kindly to having to deal with this guy's bullshit. The advocate for the court, i.e. the UK equivalent of the district attorney's office, said nah to all of Bovey's arguments. The only question is which side was more compelling to Sheriff McFadden. And with that, court was adjourned until July 19th, where McFadden has promised he will render a verdict. So hopefully that means I can give you other non-Arthur Knight related content for the next week, but no, he's going to do something stupid in the next 7 days. But as soon as I hear something one way or another in the Arthur Knight saga, you will get an update. Stay tuned.
I told you, once you think it can't get any crazier, it gets crazier. But at least he finally changed his clothes. We went from the lavish smoker's jacket to the judge's robes to whatever that was today. But we did decide in the comments during that video that from now on we're calling each other Barrister. Everybody's
All right,
Barrister. And for those,
what was that train wreck?
Yeah, and one more time, I do have to say this every time we cover this story. We do not bring up the victims of these cases because he also has assault victims in the UK. One, they're doing a great job of hiding them. This is not about them. We are poking fun at him and how ridiculous he is being to try to avoid consequences, which is very, very alpha manly of him. But yes, like his Mungo, yes, the names, the names are enough to throw you. But Mungo is is attorney number 9, 8 or 9. And Mungo has gotten to the point where the defense is, yeah, he did it, but they're just going to beat him up in American prison at this point. That Mungo has given up. And tried to fire Mungo every other day for like the past 2 weeks.
That video said that he claimed to have converted to Judaism in 3 days.
Yes.
That's not
a prison guard arrested because the prison guards have had enough. They know that he's faking it as far as being in the wheelchair, all this other stuff. Because like I said, he's gotten out the wheelchair to attack prison guards. So the one prison guard got frustrated and said something. It was wrong. It was anti-Semitic. But he does these things to try to avoid consequences. Kind of like our friend on Tuesday, who claimed not to be conservative, but doesn't speak out against.
Oh my goodness, that dude!
It's so hard.
Like every talking point of his was conservative, but he's not conservative. And don't call him a conservative, but even though he's old enough to have lived in California when it was more conservative, he's only got bad things to say about the Democrats even though he's seen it his whole life. Like what was that circular logic?
Well, just like when I asked him to read just a snippet of one of the articles he provided, he couldn't. And then he's like, well, I have pictures from my company. Dude, you don't have government contracts.
There was just like a ridiculous amount of misinformation from him. So China has been building ports for trade since at least the 1980s, and more so after it was mid 90s, late 90s that they started building more trade ports, and that's
Mhm.
because they started trading more on a global scale. There are probably about 40 trade ports in South America through various countries. These are not military bases. They are trade ports because China is one of the largest world trade partners. It doesn't matter where you are. It's number one trade partner for the United States.
Yep.
And then he was bringing up Canada, and Canada used to do basically like field training military exercises in jointly with China. And then they stopped that, I believe in 2020. They stopped doing that because of the what they would call aggression from the nation of China against
Yep.
Western nations. And I do know that a lot of it on both sides, whether it be Chinese news or, Western news, a lot of it is propaganda. We always have to have something to fear. North Korea is going to bomb us, they can't get a freaking thing across the ocean. But, they're definitely going to do it one day. And yeah. But a lot of it is rhetoric that's pushed to cause the average citizen to be fearful. And it's a propaganda machine when you get straight down to it. I mean, there's good facts, there's bad facts, and then there's propaganda. And when it comes to nation interest, a lot of it is going to be propaganda because we have to make, communism bad, and communism needs to make Western ideology bad. When really they should just talk. But
One
it's like
of
he fell for every propaganda and every conspiracy theory possible all at one time. And he was like, China's coming for us.
Yeah, and when he admitted that his family as a whole believed in conspiracy theories, and then I said, "Well, where do you go to get your research? The internet?" Yeah, okay. I was like, "This I didn't think you were that simple brained." And then I was like, where specific like are there certain sites that you like to go to? Like, do you like to read the actual documents? Do you like to read? Oh, I just picked this article and this article. Well, you're picking all the right wing ones for somebody who's not right wing. And I'm like, dude, you're going to DuckDuckGo, and it shows.
Well, not only that, like him trying to dispute Buddha on TikTok, and he's like, look at these headlines, look at these headlines. And then you read the articles that are on all those headlines, and it's like nothing of what he's saying. Yeah, sure, China has a big military budget. We have a huge military budget.
Yeah, because in real time, when I asked him to pull it up, and that's why I started asking him. I was like, from this year, I was like, because most of these articles are from 2000, 2021, 2006. I'm like, dude, I don't know. But I'm big chicken shit, even though I invited him on.
He just couldn't handle you just getting done with his rudeness. Like he should not have been disrespectful when it comes to somebody's non-binary identity. When you told him once not to do that and that they identify as they them and that they were non-binary, he should have respected that. He should have stopped using gendered pronouns. He should have stopped trying to force it. And just his comment of I don't respect trans people was just that was really maddening because people are people, and the only people that are demonizing trans existence happen to be right wing. And he's like, no, that's not me. I'm not conservative. I'm a milky toast libertarian, I swear.
Yeah,
He's a
like,
milky toast
I don't
alt right, maybe.
And when he was like, I don't want to give out my location. First of all, I don't ask anybody to give out their location. But I'm like, dude, you're trying to describe Compton, but you're describing Compton in a way that I know that you're describing it from movies you watched.
Right. I went in there when everybody was afraid to go in because it was a really bad neighborhood. And I was like, stop doing that, man.
I was like, did he just gentrify lean on me? I was like, okay, okay. All righty. The gummies hit different today, I guess, because
Mm.
but
And
then
then
when
his Wi-Fi sucked.
oh and then from my end, I even tried to change how I took him off HD.
Hmm.
I put him on standard, which takes the lowest amount of bandwidth. And he was still glitching. I said, okay. All right. But I
We
had enough.
run into some really, really low-brow, unintelligent people. We really do. I've noticed that, Marcus. God, Marcus. Yeah. Then dude that Buddha was going with that was on here, and I'm like, hey, he's gonna be eaten alive on Taz's podcast. I'm gonna watch it.
He kept trying. He kept trying with the, well, that's your opinion. And I wanted to call him Tuberville so bad. Like, it's not an opinion, dude. And I'm so petty. I'm so petty that I woke up the next day and wrote a whole blog about definitions are not your feelings.
Mhm. Definition, and not only that, you can't quote Malcolm X and only quote half of it. Not even half. Not even half. Just the part that he agreed with.
Mm-hmm. Because I'm like, if you don't agree with either side, why would you cut off one side?
All right.
But he's still following me.
Maybe you're his best friend now because you paid attention to him.
Get
You
somebody
know,
else.
some people are like that, right? They love the abuse. You should just start charging him for it.
I guess I could, but he looks like
Be
he
like,
still subscribes to bath days, so I don't know.
it don't matter. Some people are just into that degradation. You should just charge them to degrade them.
True. What is wrong? What is wrong with you? Didn't we have a conversation before I went live that you were not going to be a crackhead tonight? And look at you being a crackhead.
It's because you didn't give him the gummies.
Oh, you out of breath because you being a crackhead. If you want to come say hi, just come say hi. Come here. Don't eat it. Don't eat it. No, now you're shy. You get on my nerves. We're gonna get you a job. Y'all give Puppers a job.
His job is being cute. You pay the dog in treats. Obviously the dog has a job.
I bribe him.
No, you're the employer.
He's an extortionist.
Okay, maybe it's the other way around. We're our pets' employers or employees, and they just demand the fruits of our labor.
Yeah, that's all it is. That's all you wanted. Okay, all right. He has one green sock that he plays with. This green sock has never been worn. I bought it in a set, was trying to put it away, and he hit it and just emerges with one green sock every once in a while. We are just here for their amusement. Just here for their amusement.
Pretty much, cats and all. I ever tell you one of my cats will only drink if I turn the faucet on?
First of all, cats are a whole different species. Cats definitely rule us because cats decided to domesticate themselves. They're like, looks pretty cozy in there with them. I guess I'll go chill in there with them. We're not in charge of cats, okay? Cats secretly rule the world. Cats secretly rule the world.
And then Riff Raff, I took him from being an outdoor cat. I rescued him and brought him indoors. And sometimes he'll go outside in the yard with me, while I'm taking care of things or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or when other people are. And then he'll try and stay out there. He doesn't go after anything, thank goodness. But he thinks he's one of the dogs. And so he'll just go out there and he'll play, and then he'll want to come back in when he's ready, never go anywhere. But he's decided when it's too hot, or it's too cold, or it's raining, even though he was 100% an outdoor cat, he needs to be back inside the climate control.
Well, this goober was rescued from a barn, and now he acts like he's Malibu's most wanted. You're not gangster. You are not gangster, sir. You're like Neil deGrasse. Well, minus the intelligent part, because it's a good thing you're cute. He's like, you know what? My dog is like Elon Musk. Not very smart. He's the neighborhood bully, and he's not. Also, like every conservative cis-het man.
Elon Musk, the blood diamond heir.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
The man who knows how to screw up more businesses than Trump, which I didn't think was going to be possible.
Well, I mean, this is what happens when you allow stupid people to have a platform or money.
Oh, like, geez Louise, they're stupid and have all this money. Just give me a couple $1,000s.
It's because you do realize that on many levels, people that are billionaires and millionaires, their children don't have to be intelligent. They're already going to have the money. So why would they need to be intelligent in order to earn the money?
Yeah, because people kill me like, oh, but these kids go to boarding schools. First of all, boarding schools are, it's just soft porn for teenagers, okay? They're teaching them how to interview, take standardized tests, and get away with salacious things, just like the Mormon schools. Because I'm like, y'all nasty, like y'all nasty.
I don't know. Mormon youth are interesting. You hear some stories about that, but I'm not even going to go into that.
Yeah, I was traumatized when I first heard about it, and I was like,
My cousin I don't talk to is Mormon, and they got magic underwear. He tells me to stop calling it magic underwear, but it's like the stuff that they have to put on to go to temple or whatever it is they call it. And also they have to wear special stuff to, do the deed.
Oh, yeah.
And so I keep telling him he has magic underwear. Well, this is before he disowned me for not being a conservative.
Ridiculous.
I've disowned like 95% of my family, and then probably about 3% has disowned me, so it works.
Yeah, I just hide from everybody, and then they go, we haven't seen her in a while, and you won't. Stop looking for me, and you won't. But as always, thank you for joining me here. If you all are not subscribed to this channel, please make sure you're subscribed. Turn on the notification. As always, check the links in the description of the video. Are you going to at least say goodbye? No? All right.
To me?
Fine.
The dog?
Dog. And I was going to say, in your final thoughts on the night?
My final thoughts really have nothing to do with the topic, but be kind to each other. Love each other, and before you love each other, learn to love yourself. Because unless you learn to love yourself, then you can't love anybody else. And there's nobody in the world that is going to be your biggest critic than yourself. So take what you think about yourself, if it's negative, with a grain of salt.
Very much so. And as always, each one reach one, each one teach one. I'll see you all tomorrow.